This video is my advice for all you UX students out there. If you already graduated, sorry it's too late. I strongly recommend getting several internships while you're still a student. This is probably good advice for students in any field, but internships are particularly important for UX students because universities are pretty bad at teaching our topic. Practical skills and work experience are much more important than theory for job performance as a UX specialist. And you learn these best by doing UX in a company, not by sitting in a classroom. When I hire entry-level UX staff, one of the main things I look for on a resume is what internships a candidate has had. Should you go back to the same company for several summers or take different internships each year? Now that's harder to say. Being hired by the same company 2 or 3 times definitely shows that the student must have done a great job the first time. But there's also something to be said for gaining experience from several different environments. Assuming you have enough offers, you should probably make the decision based on how well you were treated last year. If you really learned a lot, then do go back for one more internship because that was a good company. And there are definitely a lot of bad internships out there. But if you are an undergraduate student, you can have 3 internships. So I would recommend trying at least 2 different companies rather than staying with the same company 3 years in a row. Should interns be paid? We always pay our interns in Nielsen Norman Group. But if you're an undergraduate freshman looking for an internship after only 1 year of school, you probably know so little that you may be better off with an unpaid internship at a good place where you can really learn instead of a paid internship at a lesser place. Now, towards the end of an undergraduate program, or if you're a grad student, it is reasonable to look to be paid. That signals that the company is serious about its interns. I personally had 2 internships when I was a student long ago. Plus, I also worked as a teaching assistant during the school year. In retrospect, I regret not having had more internships. Being a teaching assistant was great because you learn any material much better by teaching it than by studying it. And I worked for a great professor. He invariably wore a bow tie, which shows you how old school he was. He really helped me get into my first teaching job, and I was lucky enough it was a small course, so that I was the only TA, which got me even closer to the professor's approach to developing his course. Even though I liked being a teaching assistant, this job cannot substitute for being an intern because it is highly academic and focused on teaching rather than doing. If you can land a TA job, do take it, because it is during the school year and presentation skills are super important for UX work. But focus your efforts for the summer on getting internships with real companies. My 2 internships were with IBM and CERN, the European Nuclear Research Center. Even though CERN is mainly a physics lab, it also has a great computer department, which is where the World Wide Web was invented. I should say that I did not have anything to do with the invention of the web, because my internship was 10 years before the web even started. CERN organized an elaborate program for the interns all summer besides our individual projects. There were lectures by Nobel Prize winners and by one of the original inventors of the atom bomb during World War II. IBM also had arranged a big formal program for its interns, even back in 1981 when I was there. I think today they do even more. But even though it's nice when a company arranges a lot of activities for its interns, I don't think this should be the deciding factor when you choose where to go. You can learn more from being in a small company with no extracurricular activities, but where you become a core contributor to a project. Similarly, even though I do recommend paid internships, don't make the salary a deciding factor. The difference between a good and a bad internship, where you learn a lot or little, is worth big dollars for your first few real jobs, much more than any pay difference during a 3-month internship. I also don't think that the hope of getting a job at the same company after graduation should be a deciding factor. Yes, many companies do use their internship programs as a recruiting pipeline, but for the student, the learning opportunity and the resume building should be the top 2 concerns. You may very well decide that the company is not where you want to work full-time, even if you had a great internship that will help you secure a better match someplace else after graduating. Case in point, Nils Norman Group only hires 10% of our interns. I view it as my sacred duty to make sure that my interns learn a lot, particularly of the things they don't get at university. When somebody has been an NNG intern, you know they have been drilled in solid methodology. But our company is so super elitist that it's not for most people to work here. But all our past interns have gone on to superb UX jobs and stellar careers. So I feel good that I helped them at a critical time, even if they did not join my team. Some of our interns even decided that they did not want to focus on user research after having tried it for a summer. That's fine. And one of the key possible outcomes of an internship, if you follow my advice to have multiple internships, that's a great way to try out some different subspecialties within the UX profession before you have to commit to specialize full-time. One last issue: avoid internships where you will not be mentored by a seasoned UX professional. In fact, it's best to join a company with a full-fledged UX department with multiple experienced UX specialists and a professional UX manager. Professional leadership and professional mentorship mean that you will actually learn something useful. In contrast, if you get raised by wolves, you will learn very little. And you may even learn something that's wrong and gives you bad habits that can be hard to shake later. So avoid internships where you will only be working with non-UXers. My most important advice to all UX students is get those internships. The more, the better.